What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Stellar Lumens today, XLM. Hit that like button, everybody. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. So here we are, sitting at about $3, or sorry, 32.3 cents. We will get to $3 inevitably. It's going to happen by the end of this cycle, that's for sure. But 32.3 cents right now is where we are. This looks like a textbook perfect bull flag, and that was the last video I made. I believe the title was like perfect bull flag or something like that. It is quite literally perfect from every aspect. It just looks amazing. There's no doubt in my mind that that was the low, right? We will not see prices below 26 cents for the rest of the cycle. 26.127 cents. We will not see prices probably anywhere near there for the rest of the cycle. If we're looking at this thing on a weekly RSI basis, where we are now, right at the 50, is a perfect area to bounce. We've got higher lows coming up here. We could go a little bit lower and be fine. We could go, we could bounce or pull up by the end of this week and close a little bit above the 50. We're fine, but generally in this 50 area, you would expect to see some turnaround. Right here, we disrespected the hell out of it, but here we found resistance here, we found resistance here, we found resistance right at the area. I'm just asking for the same thing, but in the form of support, right? So I think this, at times you disrespect it, sure, but most of the time you do respect it. I'm expecting that even if we go a little bit lower, we will find support here soon. So it's either this week, next week, sometime soon, we will see XLM Stellar Lumens beginning to move up again. And I do think if we look at Bitcoin dominance, there's a little bit in this as well. We look at the weekly time frame. I don't know about you guys, but that seems like a top wick to me. That seems like a very good topping wick to me. And if we actually look at this, we're going to use the Bitcoin dominance just to kind of assume what we're going to see with Stellar Lumens here. High to low, you tipped your 786. And this whole cycle, a lot of cryptos that move up, they move through their golden ratio and they stop at their 786. When they do, you get a rapid movement down to your 0.5 or your 382. That kind of movement can cause all kinds of good things to happen, right? If we compare Stellar Lumens here, XLM, by the way, last cycle was a weak cycle for crypto and for Stellar Lumens, okay? It was a very weak cycle, and still, the red line, by the way, is Stellar Lumens. This is BTC.D, right? We can see that here. Let's just try and move this over a little bit. Do that, make it look pretty. Make it look pretty, nice and neat. I don't know about you guys, but if we put a line right here where the dominance tanked, that happens to be at the exact same moment the Stellar Lumens started to really skyrocket, right? And it might be even easier to see on a weekly basis, right? You're moving up, Stellar. Stellar Lumens was moving up from this low, but it really took off right here that week there, right? And that wasn't necessarily when the dominance tanked, but it was near its highs, right? Stellar Lumens here took off. That wasn't necessarily when the dominance tanked, but hey, it was near its highs. Then once the dominance actually tanked from its high here, Stellar Lumens had its finale finish, right? It actually grew. I'm just curious to see what it did very specifically on a candlestick perspective. Because I'm expecting this to be the top week. So genuinely, quite literally, comparing Stellar Lumens to what it did last cycle and what we're seeing here, I think it's more than appropriate to do right now. And I also expect that we will see a stronger move now than what we saw last cycle, because we're already doing things better than we've done last cycle. Okay, so running with that logic alone, what was that? Oh, I was going to measure the move itself. That's right. So from a low point here, that was at about 13 cents. When the dominance started to drop, it was right there, right? So 13 cents all the way up to, in about a week's time, you saw a move. It says 26%, right? This says 26%, but it's basing it off the dominance, so it's not 26%. It was a 13 cents move that went all the way up. You can look over here, all the way up to 43 cents. So 13 to 43 cents, that's basically a 2x, a little bit over a 2x, right? Sorry, a 3x. It's a 200% move. It's a little bit over a 3x for Stellar Lumens. So again, all that to say, last time, in the last cycle, where Stellar Lumens was weaker, where crypto was weaker, when we saw the dominance top off, we saw Stellar Lumens do something that was greater than a 200% move. We go to the cycle before. We go to the cycle before that even, okay? BTC.D here. The dominance really started to tank here, sure, but I think it began tanking back over here, okay? And we could say that it started to drop here. It didn't find it found its high wherever, but it started to drop here. Stellar lumens in that week. Let's see, how low was that? That was at 1.9 cents. 1.9. It went all the way up in that same week, all the way up to 3.9. So 1.9 to 3.9. That is more than a 200% move as well. So the last two cycles that the dominance, not even whenever it's at its hardest dropping, not even when it's at its hardest dropping points, but just the beginning of when we start to see it decline, we see stellar lumens in a 1 week period move up more than 200%. I think that's important. I think it's important because, again, I would identify this week here on the BTC dominance with the exact same as this here, okay? I'm not saying necessarily in 1 week that stellar lumens is going to be up more than 200%. I'm not saying that, but I am saying something like that's coming. And it's likely, if it's not this next week, it's certainly going to be by the end of February, okay? And we'll definitely be on track for that. Over 200%, right? If we were to move up from here, that move would take you above $1, right? Above $1. If you were to see a move that was on par with what we've seen with the dominance dropping and stellar lumens moving up the last two cycles, even during the week cycle, last cycle you did that, I'm assuming you see something bigger than this. And we can make sense out of it more than just the BTC.D. If we look at the bull flag here that you're in, this very perfect bull flag, that low to high, if you were to see a move that at least took you to $1, then you've broken out of this very bullish pattern. And if you're breaking out of this pattern, the measure move of that pattern would not suggest that you stop at $1, but rather it would suggest that you stop something at about $1.90, just below $2 in fact. And this move here, 214%, that's a representation of what we would expect to immediately happen. That immediate shift breakout move that's going to happen when the dominance drops, when the alt season starts and everything in crypto is bullishly pumping, right? That's what we're expecting to see. It's just an immediate rip to $1, right? You're going to blink. Next day, you're going to be at $1. Next week, whatever, right? Maybe not this next day, not this next week, but when you get things going, it's going to be within that next week that you do see things just kind of take off in a very eruptive move. But it's not going to stop there. It'll continue to grow. Your measure move would at least take you to just below $2. And beyond what we have here, beyond all this stuff, if we look at a relative high here to a relative low there, and we're on the weekly basis, so this is a lot of time, right? That was from July 23 until July 24. That's literally a year that we just measured there. Your next target likely would be somewhere in this zone over here, right? Somewhere between $1.14 to $2.66, and this is basically right smack dab in the middle there. Based on the fibs here, if you break above this zone, which the measure move would have you breaking above that zone, you likely wouldn't stop till you're at 227 to 266. 227 to 266. So let's see if there's anything else that agrees with that, right? And there is. There is plenty that agrees with that. We take the cycle high from last cycle in May of 2021 to the cycle low, and you have your 1272 lining up with the highs of this kind of minimum expected area, and then your 1414, your next fib, lining up with the highs of the next expected area. It's very common with any 1414 to actually wick just above it. If you wick just above it, what's that? Right there, boom, perfect. Right above 220, yet below 266. And the more that I look at the stellar lumens chart, the more that happens, guys. I've been anticipating that stellar lumens could go to 220 to $1.54, somewhere in that range. I've been expecting that for a while, but over the past couple weeks, I've really started to accept. I think it will break above 220. I don't think it'll go above $3. It could. 350 is up there. 358, it's up there. But I think above 220, below 266, I like that. I like that a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And we can go back even more. We can do one more, right? We can take this high here to this low, and we get one more that agrees with that range. The 1272 at $2.46, $2.46 here, $2.18 here, $2.27, $2.66, measure move here, and we're in the midst of a stronger cycle than what we saw last time. It's completely possible that beyond everything that I've said to suggest that the price could be above $2. It's very possible that when you break out of a multi-cycle consolidation phase like this, that you would see a rather explosive move. And oftentimes whenever it comes to triangles, you take the low to the high of the triangle, you put it at the breakout point, that's your measure move, and that takes you all the way up, man, that takes you all the way up to 338, 334, right there. So when I say we could go as high as 350, there are multiple things that suggest that. Whenever I say that we could go above $2, there's not just multiple, but there's a ton of things that suggest that as well, right? You're consolidating now. You're at 32.3 cents now. I would not be sad or surprised at all if you moved a little bit lower from here, but I'm assuming that by the end of this week, you probably close at this area. You probably don't move too much. You've got a day and 20 hours left in this week. You probably don't move too far away from this price zone. And then starting as early as next week, if not the following week, but certainly by the end of this month, I think Stellar Lumens will be above $1, probably reaching for $2. Going into March, middle of March, I suspect we'll see prices above $2, probably as high as 220, or sorry, probably above 220 and as high as 350. I'm looking for something around 230 to 260, somewhere in that zone. I got nothing else for you. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, you guys. Thank you all for being here. Take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.